every soul. Family ties, tangled, spaghetti in a maze. Growing up in this world of non-stop craze. Through Wonderland's gates we unlock the scene. Heartfelt confessions mixed with caffeine. Identity a mirror, emotions on the grind. Relationships weave webs tangled in the mind. Dad had a dad joke, mom had a battle cry. Bro screaming GTA, sister waving goodbye. Chaos at the dinner table, feelings hit the wall. Trying to grow tall, but the ceiling's way too small. Through Wonderland's gates we unlock the scene. Heartfelt confessions mixed with caffeine. Identity a mirror, emotions on the grind. Relationships weave webs tangled in the mind.
Welcome back to Wonderland Unlocked, the place where we unearth the unspoken, explore identity, and plant seeds of truth in curious soil. Today's episode is called Talking Flowers, When Family Twists Your Story. If you've ever had your words rewritten, your memories questioned, or your truth repackaged in a version that doesn't sound like you at all, you're not alone. In Alice in Wonderland, the flowers gossip, judge, and make assumptions about Alice without ever asking who she really is. Sound familiar? Today, we're exploring what it feels like when family rewrites your story, sometimes to protect themselves, sometimes to shame you, and sometimes just because they can't or won't see you truly for who you are. So grab your cup of tea. We're planting truth in a garden full of noise. Let's start with what it feels like. When a family member twists your story, it's not always loud. It's not always big, dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's just a seed planted in the middle of a sentence. A tiny misrepresentation said with a smile, passed off as harmless. A little twist here, a little exaggeration there. You walk away wondering, did I say that wrong? Did I come across the way they just described? Or maybe you don't even get the chance to walk away because they're telling your story to someone else when you're not in the room to correct it. And that's the part that stings the most. Not just being misunderstood, but being misrepresented. It's rarely just one moment. It builds up slowly, over time. You start to notice patterns. Your struggles get flattened into character flaws. Your growth gets ignored because it doesn't fit the version they're comfortable with. They remember all your mistakes with vivid clarity, but none of your milestones. And what happens when you try to correct it? You get told you're too sensitive or making a big deal out of nothing. Common lines you might hear: you take everything so personally. You always have to be the victim. You know we didn't mean it like that. These moments add up, and over time, you start to question whether your story even belongs to you anymore. Let's name what this does to us. Being represented by your family can lead to self-doubt. You start wondering if maybe you are dramatic, emotional, or overreacting. Loneliness, because even surrounded by people, you feel invisible. Anger, that bubbling frustration when no one seems interested in hearing your version of you. You may even find yourself changing how you speak, downplaying your experiences, avoiding vulnerability, just to stay safe from another round of misunderstanding. And here's the quiet heartbreak. Sometimes we internalize their version of our story. We start to believe the narrative they wrote about us instead of writing our own. Let me tell you about a little more about that moment I mentioned earlier. I had reached out to a family member during a rough season. I was overwhelmed trying to stay regulated, trying to feel less alone. I thought maybe if I'm just honest, maybe this time they'll hear me. And for a moment, they nodded. They seemed to listen. But then weeks later, I heard them say to someone else, "They're always going through something. They love the drama." And I just stood there, frozen. Because in that sentence, everything I shared from my heart was turned into a personality flaw. Not only was my story taken, it was reshaped, distorted, and passed around like gossip. As if my pain was just petals to be plucked apart for entertainment. It made me question whether I'd ever been seen clearly, or if I was always just some furniture in their mind. That moment didn't just hurt. It taught me something. Not everyone deserves access to your rawness. Not everyone will hold your story with care. And that says more about them than it ever will about you. It's like being planted in the wrong garden. Imagine you're a vibrant wildflower, bright, complex, wild-hearted. But the people around you keep calling you a weed. They don't see your inner beauty because it's not tidy. It's not what they're used to. So they clip your petals, try to box you in, and rename you. But here's the truth. You were never meant to shrink for someone else's landscape. You were always meant to bloom in your own way, your own color, your own story. Let's slow down for a second. Ask yourself, what version of me has my family chosen to believe? What parts of my truth have they ignored, twisted, or erased? And how has that shaped how I see myself today? If that stirred something, let it. Let yourself feel it, because naming it is the first step to unlearning it. You are not the drama. You are not the burden. You are not the problem child or the black sheep. You are not too much. You are someone who felt deeply and wasn't met with understanding. You are someone who spoke up and got punished for it. You are someone who deserved to be heard and instead was handed a script that didn't fit in. But guess what? You don't have to perform in that script anymore. So why do families do this? Let's talk about narrative control when someone shapes the story to fit their comfort, ego, or denial. Sometimes it's about protecting their image, avoiding accountability, or keeping you in a familiar role, black sheep, golden child, lost cause. They may twist your truth because it challenges the role they want to play in the family story. And if your truth shines too bright, they'll try to shade it. Common tactics: rewriting history. You always had it easy. Misquoting you in conversations. Bringing up old versions of you and pretending you never changed. What story has your family told about you that doesn't feel true anymore? The next part can be hard to name. Gaslighting. It's not just about lying, it's about distortion. It's about convincing you that your version of events, your emotions, your memories are unreliable. Example phrases: no one else sees it that way. That never happened. And you're always rewriting things to make yourself look better. And over time, you start to wonder if you are misremembering. You shrink, you second guess, and you stay silent. Gaslighting keeps the family story neat and tidy at your expense. There was a time I started keeping notes after every major family interaction because I was tired of being told things didn't happen the way I remembered. That's how far it went. I didn't trust my own brain anymore. With borderline personality disorder, that's what my brain does. It distorts things, so when my family purposefully does it, knowing that my brain already does it, it creates a lot of confusion in my brain. And that's what this does. It warps your sense of reality, of safety, of voice. So what do we do when our story has been taken from us? We take it back, one line at a time. This is your invitation to dream your truth back into being. Ways to begin: write your version of events, uncensored, unfiltered. Stop engaging in conversations where your identity is debated like gossip. Let go of proving. You don't need to convince anyone to validate your lived experience. You're not difficult. You're not dramatic. You're just the one who remembers what others want to forget. Think of one moment where your family misunderstood or misrepresented you. Write down what really happened and how you really felt. Don't worry about silencing. Don't worry about being nice. Just be honest. Now that you've reclaimed your truth, what do you want to grow from it? You don't have to live in the version of your story that others created. You get to become the gardener now. You decide what blooms. This might look like correcting someone calmly but firmly. Actually, that's not how I experienced it. Creating distance from family members who constantly misrepresent you. Saying that may be your story, but it's not my truth. You don't owe your family a version of yourself that's easier to swallow. You don't have to accept their version of you just because it's been repeated the longest. Your story is not up for debate. You are not a rumor. You are not a reputation. You are a whole, breathing, blooming truth. To the version of you that was misnamed, mislabeled, and misrepresented, I see you. To the you who's quietly rewriting your story in the background, I honor your courage. Let the flowers talk. Let them chatter, twist, spin. But you keep planting truth. This is your garden now. Until next time, stay curious, stay rooted, and above all, stay true to your story.